All right, good morning. Got Baden Behrens here from Bellicasa Design.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, let's get into it. So let's tell us about Bellicasa, why you do what you do, what excites you about the industry. You've obviously been in the industry, I know you, so, a long time.
20-odd years, yeah.
20-odd years. Tell us about Bellicasa.
So we're interior designers. We sort of got into the industry doing more interior decorating for builders. The fit-off stuff, the stuff the builders don't put in their contracts,
Yep.
but is critical to a client getting a really great end result and their forever home sort of thing. And so we were doing that because my background, I had a factory, I was manufacturing window treatments, and so my background is in manufacture. And I was spending, I realised there was a period of time there, I realised I was spending more time when I was quoting clients, offering design advice, and then also having to work out how I was going to deliver a product that we'd been discussing based on guessing how the builder had built the structure. And over time I realised that I was giving more interior advice than I was putting product in. And of course my product knowledge or my construction knowledge had gotten quite a depth because I was starting to realise when I could and could not do certain things because of how a place was built. And so I started to move more and more into specialising in new builds for construction. Then I moved into interior design, and now we do the full service, which builders love.
Okay, yeah. We're obviously using you. We're working closely on a couple of projects at the moment, so, I can testament firsthand to what you do. So leads me to the next question. How does interior design help when building a home?
Clarity.
It's a bit of a bland question.
It's a huge question, right? For the client, reduces stress. I find most clients, they know what they like, but they just can't quite work out how to pull it all together.
Yeah.
And what is really common in nearly every project is they get overwhelmed, get stressed, and by the time they start to actually give any kind of selection information or design information to the builder's coming out of the ground, and they're starting to put pressure on the client because it's now costing the builder money. They're building, hey, we need these answers. I thought I had these months ago. Those sorts of scenarios kept coming up. And I find with an interior designer, especially if we can get in early, I like to get in real early, before working drawings even, so that then everything's quoted accurately and
that's
everyone...
where the costs blow out for
That's where the costs blow out, yeah. And because, you got to get things moving, and so you'll make a provisional sum, and then the client comes up with some great idea. I don't realise it's been a sum
like that. They think
set,
it's included.
And we make their day with they've got their dreams come true, and all of a sudden the builder goes, "This is not extra in the scope." Yeah. So I'd like to go in real early. And I think that's a huge benefit because when you do that, there's less likely to have budget blowout. You sort of know where you are before you come out of the ground. But then the builder knows what should be coming and what it looks like, and it's easier to answer questions. It's easier for the builder to relay that information to the subbies.
Yeah. As a builder, like I know our sales process, it can take 9 months.
Yeah.
So when they start doing those drawings to when they end up going to contract, there's a 9-month period. So to get someone like you in early makes sense because when we're quoting a job, we'll be going, okay, well, we're just assuming. We're assuming going, we got this floor plan. We don't even really have a render of a bathroom. We can see it on the plan, there's a bath as tall as a vanity, rah. So we're assuming going, okay, might be a 2-story nice house in Broadbeach Waters. Okay, well, there's a good chance this client doesn't want to have 6x6 tiles, 600x600. So we might have to make an assumption to go, well, let's allow for a 12x6. Let's allow for, some sort of feature. Yeah. And that's where the cost blowout come because otherwise, if we don't know what we're doing, or what the client wants, we sit there and go, we'll just put everything as standard, going, we're going to lay the tiles as standard here. The plans don't show features majority of the time. So if you're sitting there going, I want to add a little bit of fibre cement over here, we're going to, whatever features there are, we're not planning for that. So if the client then goes and does it later, well, they're in for a shock.
They are in for shock, and it puts everyone in a funny position because clients get a little bit salty thinking, well, how is it not factored in? Builders going, that's the first I'm hearing about it. Yeah. And of course, as the designer, we think we're making everybody happy, and then all we've done is created a budgetary issue. And of course, now the client wants what we've drawn. They've got their heart set on it. And so coming in, I like to come in because normally with building designers, there's sort of like there's a concept phase, and then
Yeah.
There's a whole period going through engineering and things to working drawings. And for me, that's the dream time to get involved, especially when I know the entire team. So let's say you bring forward a client, so we're talking to these people, and we need a package done. Then if we can speak to the building designer and to you, every idea that we as designers then have, we run off by you. So I'm thinking of doing this. I think it's going to look really cool, or it's going to actually be really practical. And you might go, well, that's actually quite expensive, or no, I think that's quite doable.
Or it works in and go, that design's not going to work, or
it's not going to work because the substrate's this, or the floor's not a suspended slab. You can't do that, or can't do that cheaply. And so then my ideas are part of the bigger picture. And so when I deliver an idea to the client, I am mindful of what you're hoping to deliver or planning on delivering and what their brief to you was, so on and so forth. And it actually makes it smoother, even if it slows me down slightly. As you said, we've now got a few months up our sleeve. There's plenty of time for us to tweak and adjust, for the client to then end up with something where you've got the full suite of drawings and designs. Working drawings come out, and they even reflect the interior design, because those drawings, our drawings, have been dropped into the working drawing. It's smoother.
Yeah,
it just works way better.
I guess the biggest thing in building is communication.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the minute communication's not there, that's where it breaks down. So if everyone can communicate early and get it on board, and the expectation of what the client thinks they're getting and what the builder thinks they're delivering, closes that gap. That's the key to having a successful project in my eyes. And like we've probably worked on over 1,000 homes on the Gold Coast, so I've learnt a lot of harsh lessons.
Yep.
Met a lot of good people. There's probably been times where we haven't delivered what we were supposed to deliver, but, now 10, 15 years later, it helps us to make sure we can keep delivering and doing what we say we're going to do for clients. We've got a mutual client at the moment, a couple of projects. Explain that one to me. So they're a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's coming from China.
Yep.
So this is probably outside your scope, probably a little bit, I guess.
It's been tricky.
Because I know that I'm forever going back and forth to this client. He's like, I found this product in China. I found this in China. One, we have to make sure it meets Australian standards, which is, it's always got to be a challenge. Things like windows, doors, everything's coming in on containers. Yep. I'm stuck with, all right, it's going to be 30 days. It's packed in a ship. It's going to be 30 days. It's going to be in custom for 2 weeks. So it's a bit of a logistical nightmare at the moment. For me, so I'm forever telling this client, update, we're talking daily, me and that client, just to, shipping and that sort of stuff. But how do you go choosing that stuff? Like, do they...
It's hard.
It's hard?
So what we've done in their instance, and I'm lucky because they're serial offenders, they're going to do more and more projects, and each one is getting smoother. Yeah. And because I'm systems focused, process focused, I warned them at the start saying, well, all I can do is specify things that I know we can get locally. Yeah. I'm going to then specify things that if something goes wrong, as long as you get what I've specified from China, we can quickly repair domestically rather than wait for another container, which was sort of the agreement we've got. And so we've done our best to specify along those lines. And, of course, that's not always what happens. And then they come back and they say, well, we found this version of your thing. And so as we do that, each time I say, give me that person's catalogue. If they're now your supplier for exterior claddings, I want their catalogue and have a serial number, because I can't read Chinese. Yeah. I will specify the serial number because my builders will then follow the serial number.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling with this first one, there's been a few little hiccups, and the client's going to get it, and they're just going to go, yeah, okay, this is going to be smoother.
Yeah,
because then the schedule's a schedule. It's no different.
I've been working very closely with him, and for me, I guess that's a service. Whereas I'm the owner, he still calls me at all hours, and I tell him that's the service you get. Obviously, giving us a lot of projects with a lot more still to come. So, say Christmas holidays, it's normally the one time a year that I switch my phone off and I don't talk to anyone. Well, he's travelling China. He's going, I'm ringing me at,
he's
8 o'clock at night. He goes, I'm at this quarry right now. Do you think this is going to work? And I'm like, mate, we'll make anything work. It just comes down to what size is it coming here? What's the quality going to be? He was talking stone then, or he's saying, I can get it in and this size, this size, this size, and I'm going, okay, well, and just going back and forth, hashing out ideas and going, well, that's the service that we give. He can call me at any time. I'm like that for my customers, but I guess you've probably had a lot of that where he's just calling you going, or texting you a picture, and he's calling me off WhatsApp in China going, this. So this is unique to us.
Yeah.
But, and I had my concerns going, okay, this could be a tough project to try and just a logistical nightmare to bring it all from China. But we're sort of a third of the way through and all seems to be going pretty good at the moment.
Good, yeah.
It's good to have a client that's flexible. Obviously,
he's a very good communicator.
Yeah.
I think the wheels would fall off if he weren't part of that equation.
Yeah.
He's just been spectacular. But I get the same thing over the Christmas break.
Yeah. I got to go to China. I've always talked about it. Go over there and see what's there. But it's a good way for us to see how things come and how it can be done, because there's going to be an issue with costs and building in Australia. It keeps getting worse. So, things like most of our products are made in China anyway. And then they go to this supplier. He sells it to that supplier, sells it to supplier, and then they end up 100% mark on the way. So there's going to be a point somewhere that I believe in the future that builders, developers are going to be bringing everything in from China direct. So interesting times, but
yeah, I think you're right. There's certainly some things where the only way to sort of keep costs under control is to sort of try to stay on top of that sort of thing. I think there's going to be a movement that direction as well, especially in the developers sphere. I think for residential, the domestic product, even though it's dearer, gives peace of mind because there's certainty in what you're getting and when you're getting it. And you know what I mean? And a lot of you guys are getting the experience now, but other builders have had no experience in importing and shipping times and that sort of stuff. It can really affect your critical timelines.
I had one for another client. He was Chinese as well in Sanctuary Cove. Not so organised and bringing things in. So he brought in his kitchen. And at that time I was like, okay, well, I don't know the quality of this product. So I removed it from our contract and said that's something you can do at the end. Because he said he had an installer. So I'm going, well, okay, you do it. But he wasn't as organised, so the time frames blew out big time. So by the time, it's meant to be in November, it goes in February.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back and fit it off. So it's sort of those costs just add up if you're not organised. Where I can see how it happens, but all comes down to organisation. So what are the most misunderstood things in around interior design?
Interior design, gosh, there's so many things. I suppose. A lot of people don't know the difference with designers, decorators, interior architects.
What is the difference between a designer or a decorator?
So an interior designer will focus on the spatial planning as well, so the layout, the planning, how the room flows, whereas a decorator is more about the finishes and the finishing touches. Yeah. They go hand in hand. At the same time, just a dedicated interior decorator won't really get that involved with the layout of a kitchen. Is it practical? Does it work? It'll be more this finish. This stone looks great, and this, things like that. Furniture, things like that. Whereas an interior designer will take care of all of it. So they take care of it on a larger level. So the design of the space is considered. The layout of the kitchen and the heights and allowances are considered. In a scheme outside of new construction, like when I work for a builder, we would also consider wall placements and things like that. When there's building design is done, we don't overstep that. That's done by professionals anyway. And so we just more worry about, is the dishwasher in the right spot and does it make sense? Whereas a decorator won't do that.
Okay.
So a decorator takes care of window treatments, the furniture, colours and colour selections, whereas design there's a few more steps involved and a few more aspects of design that are also delivered and considered.
Okay. I look back on the past, like I said, I've probably worked on over 1,000 homes on the Gold Coast. We've built a lot of homes, renovated a lot of homes. I look back on jobs that were successful and some that probably weren't successful.
Uh-huh.
And to have a plan, that shows the height of the shower head, the mixers at this height, everything detailed.
Yep.
it makes it so much clearer because we would sit there and go with the client, where do you want? And they're like, I got no idea. Yeah. And so, we'd stand them in the shower and go, well, normally it's at this height standard in Australia if you were having a home built by Metricon, let's say. Or, we can customise this to you. They might be short, they might be tall. There's just so many things to consider that people don't. As a builder, to have plans that have all that height and everything on it, and then it's so much easier to build. And the organisation's there. It just limits error.
It does.
I've had ones where we've put it in and the client goes, I don't like it. I need you to drop it down. It's the shower head. Okay. He goes, it's too hard. I've got young kids now. I want it closer. I'm going to say, well, it's not as easy as just dropping that shower head down now. You've now got to remove tiles. Re-waterproof, retile. It's a over $1,000 exercise now to remove it. So while a client might be, spending a little bit extra on interior design, I think it's smart because it avoids that sort of stuff.
They save thousands, and the stress. There's just that pressure's now not on the client. The builder rings me, or they don't even ring me. It's on the plan. As part of our service, as you now know, is we also, when we've done all of the drawing, we'll do a walkthrough at rough-in. Yeah. And we'll literally, builder has a blue crayon, and we literally mark. And we normally make sure the sparky and the plumbers are with us, and they all just mark where they're working. We go off those drawings, and there's peace of mind because the builders, I think, has this big relief that, the onus is not on me. Yeah. And it takes a lot of pressure off.
Because our process, normally is it depends, because clients can come to us with drawings. And if they've come to us with drawings that are not quite at that level of detail and they don't want to pay for an interior design, our process would be, all right, let's go around, let's mark it on the floor. Light here, PowerPoint here, everything. And then, it looks good. When you actually go and fit it off and do it, they're like, I don't like that placement. And it's like, had they have sat with someone and discussed all the outcomes of what is or what's not, what's good, they probably would have delivered a better product. So it's kind of closing that gap. Do you find people, if they're going to spend $1 million on a budget home, they're going to spend 2.5 on a nicer home, do you find there's a gap there for the people that will want to spend money on interior design?
Yeah. The higher end builds, they tend to understand, and it's not about budgets. Normally the people that are building a higher end home have built before. Yeah. And so the school of hard knocks have kicked in where they know that scenario. Yeah. Where they've walked through with the builder, they thought it was, and when they've got there, the builder goes, no, that's exactly what we discussed.
They build a home, they're sitting there going, all right, what are the things I didn't like last time? I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done this, wouldn't have done that. So they learn from it and they go, all right, let's bring in the right people to do the right job. So at the end of the day, I'm completely happy with that finished product.
Yeah. It's that. And even when I was reflecting when you were talking, something's really common for me is, I don't know if it's a uniqueness in me specifically or all interior designers do it, but because of the trade side of my background, when we're walking through a client, quite often when a builder's suggesting something in the context of what you've just said, I'll actually often stop the conversation, look to the client and go, now, do you understand what he just said to you? Yeah. And they'll go, well, yeah. And I'll go, no, it means it's down here. And you told me the other day that you wanted to do a such and such. Oh, I do want to do that. Okay, well, it needs to be here. And then the builder goes, well, I didn't know about that. Yes, it needs to be there. Yeah. And it just fast tracks that. It smooths that out because then there is no assumptions, because a lot of clients, everyone does it. A lot of people won't want to look silly, and so they won't bring something up if they don't fully understand. And the builder now thinks that he's relayed that message nice and clearly. Yeah. And then, but yeah, it's often the client goes, oh no, I want that little statue in the corner and I'm going to do a thing. Well,
they never related to the
builder. Doesn't know about that. He's worried about the structure of the place. His primary role is to make sure this place doesn't fall down in 15 years.
That's it. Yeah. So we're warranting this for our life, So everything's built to a standard, but it's there's definitely a gap that I can see for clients that don't spend money on interior design. Unless you've got the experience and you've done it all before, I think you're sort of playing with a little bit of fire to not invest some money on that sort of side of things, I believe.
I think so too, and I'm even reflecting on one of the projects we're talking about that we're working on together, and I've got a couple of other clients doing various projects around the place, and they've just, to save money, have said, just draw the kitchen. okay, well, I'll just draw the kitchen. What then is happening is then those builders are now saying, what are we doing in the master ensuite? I don't know. The client didn't have me look at it. I would assume it's this, but then there's this toing and froing, and now who's now giving that advice? Because now as the builder, you're thinking, well, I just want to turn to the interior designer now. Whereas, and the client then says, I'll ask the interior designer, go, well, what do you want me to do? And so it slows that down, whereas they've just had me draw every room. Like these days I try to just do the lot. I found breaking it up and piecemealing it for clients actually was making it harder while the building was being built.
Oh, it's way harder.
Because the plumber's going, okay, yeah, I understand the kitchen, but I can't work out where all these bathrooms are.
It's just not how you build. You don't plan to build like that.
You can't.
I've heard horror stories of people on cost-plus contracts, clients not making decisions, and things still have to be paid. All your on-site costs, they got toilets, they got site sheds, they got, you name it, whatever, scaffold. It's all there waiting for the clients to make decisions. And those clients are going, they're just pushing it a week, another week, another week. He's like, well, what do I do? I've still got people here working. Yeah, but they're probably not as busy as they should be. And then when it comes to submit that invoice later, the client's blowing up going, what have you been doing?
Waiting for you.
Waiting for you. They don't understand it. So it's this vicious circle. So
that's really interesting. I think about it, but until you say it, it is. It's a bit like running a business.
The onboarding costs that no one realises. Yeah. It's even when you get like a big variation on a job, right? I've had, I had $1 million reno last year. It ended up being 1.6 by the time we finished. That $600,000 extra of income was not worth it at all.
Yeah,
we were better off saying no and going off and doing another job because, it's 600,000 variations, right? But the onboarding costs of everything sitting there, and I can't build that wall over there. I can't build that. We can't gyprock that. So everything is disrupted, the whole build. So, you might have a fixed price with the plaster and it was 45, but now he's going to have to come back and redo that. Now your price is 55 and you don't realise it just blows it out because it's just not how we build. So my advice to anyone would be that, in that sales process of that 9-month year, however long it takes, because a lot of your clients are probably doing, DAs as well. They'd be high limits or whatever, they're big homes. So in that time frame, get an interior designer involved and spend the time while the builder's getting everything ready, while the draftsman's getting all the architects getting the drawings done, because you're going to eliminate that time. The process is going to get shortened, and by the time the drawings are done, you're involved. The builder knows exactly what he's going to get or what he's going to deliver, and then the fixed price contract can happen like that. There's no variations, and it just closes that gap on, this is what you're getting, this is what the builder thinks he's delivering, and, it's here. It's just closing that gap. That's the key.
And are you confident that you're delivering what's been discussed between all parties? And in that instance, you are.
Yeah.
It just takes all the guesswork out of it. And then another thing, as you're talking, was over that 9-month period, I tell you one big distinction with good designers, and most designers, I would think, is the stuff we're drawing now will be on trend in 2 or 3 years' time. We're normally always slightly ahead of styles, trends, and things like that. In which case, in that 9-month period, if you're doing it yourself, you're going to be picking things that you're seeing in mainstream, in which case, by the time you come out of the ground, it's a little bit old hat. Whereas we're still ahead of the game. We're still only not even a full year down the track, which means we're still 2 and a bit years ahead of trends and styling. And so you're going to have a house that's going to look unique and beautiful a whole lot longer and less, more unique, which is a big selling point to having a designer, as long as we don't go crazy. But some people do want you to go crazy, which is great fun.
How do you find, obviously you got probably 2 sets of clients. People are building their home, to live in. They're going, it might be husband, wife, family. They might go, this is my dream home. I just want you to design the shit out of this. I want it high end. I want this place to be fucking amazing, And then you got these other clients that'll be, I'm doing this to literally, it's going on the market. I'm bringing in Ray White, Kaloshi, whoever. It's going to auction. Yeah. I'm going to auction this. I just want every dollar I can out of it, to make a profit.
Yep.
Do you have a different set of, would you treat those clients differently? One, obviously high end. The other one, are you looking at different products to sit there and go, all right, let's say this massive stone wall and, it's $400 a square. He's happy to pay $400 over here. He might not, but he wants that look. Like how do you have
that
close
is
that gap?
hard. It's when you're dealing with the end client, my preferred option, which is the owner occupier.
Yeah.
I subordinate my thinking to are they going to love it? Is it something that suits their brief and suits their needs, and is it going to stand the test of time, styling wise and in a literal sense? And then for the investor, I have to change to more what is the market? What do I think the market wants, and where's
the market going to be when you
yeah,
sell
where's the
these?
market going to be when this is built, which is normally about a year and a half after I've been involved, or about a year maybe, and so you think, well, where's the market? What are the current trends? Do I have to sort of play in that game, or can I slightly push the envelope a little bit? And I do a little bit of both. I still always like to push the envelope, and the hard part is I find with inexperienced developers, they still get caught up in the design.
Yeah.
They get this little emotional, and now there's a blurred line between, okay, well, are you going to move in or not? Because if you're going to move in, my thinking changes, because now I'll just focus on making you happy.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm trying to focus on making you profit. The old hand developers, they just literally go, get that design, get it to the builder.
Yeah.
They'll approve it, but they're not going to get caught up in whether...
In the nitty-gritty stuff.
Whether it's a pin lever or a paddle type mixer. They just go, okay, we got taps, great.
Yeah.
Are they $300? Perfect, that was the brief. So it's that. So there is a difference. So an inexperienced developer, I'm finding there's this blurred line between me treating them like a homeowner and a business proposition. But someone with a bit more experience, I can separate them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've got probably a mix of clients both ways. But it does seem to be there's a lot more people out there trying to, dabble in their sort of head in the development game. Knocking down houses in Broadbeach Waters or Palm Beach or wherever and split into two. Or other people are just building this big house. It might be 800,000 square metres, rooftop bar lift, and going for that high-end price. But we're working on a project together in Chevron Island at the moment, 2 3-story duplexes. Mm-hmm. And, in my eyes, that I look at this project and go, it's going to be a record setter. There's nothing in this area that has the kind of finishes that they're bringing in overseas. But once this project goes to auction later in the year, I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited because I believe we're going to set a record for that area. So
yeah, it's quite a unique looking property, and I think the styling's going to come together really, really well. And I agree with you. There's something unique about it, especially in that area.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that it's going to do really well as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. The pressure's on. Let's get it finished so we can get it out for auction. They'd like to sell it this side of Christmas, but it obviously depends on functionality of getting everything here from China and we're waiting on. But roof's going on this week. 3rd story cladding starting to happen, so it'll start closing up soon and looking a little bit more. So some exciting times on that project in the next few weeks.
Yep.
Mate, what are pre-construction builder selections, or why are pre-construction builder selections so important?
Well, I think it helps the builder get those budget correct. It lets them know what they're dealing with, so that they can get all their costs and all their ducks in a row early, so that then there's no variations, no surprises, things like that. We think that they're critical for that, because you touched on it earlier. A lot of clients are they're a little disorganised straight out inexperience, ignorance, and so I've had it over the years where clients, I'm sort of saying, we haven't picked your plumbing and sanitary. Oh, we've got plenty of time. They need to do a set out for your slab. We need to know, are your toilets coming out of the wall, or they're, is that relevant? Let's get moving.
From the start.
Let's go. Yeah. And so it's not just budget. It's part of your planning. And so I think it's critical because I can hand you the documentation so that you can move forwards with confidence. And at the same time, the clients should have the confidence now that it's going to look right, and that the budgets, there should be no real surprises because you had them before contracts were signed.
Yeah.
Which is ideal.
If you don't have them before, generally what happens is, and I'll speak on all builders, we would sit there and make assumptions and go, all right, we've allowed for this type of roofing. It might just be standard, ColourBond. Could be, we've allowed for this tile, we've allowed for this, we've allowed for this. And obviously that's when the issues arise later because, well, I don't want that, but there's got to be a starting point for the builder and there's got to be a starting point for the owner and they have to somehow meet in the middle. But the more work that can be done on that beforehand, the better.
And it avoids those hard conversations where you sort of, the client say, well, I didn't know you were going to be dearer for this, and go, well, I didn't know you were going to pick that style of sink mixer. And you think, well, there's got to be an easy way for there to be zero tension. Just like we know what we're getting, this is what we want. And for, if you come up with your quotation, the client goes, oh, it's more than I wanted. Well, you've gone top shelf with your tapware. Let's do this with it, but bring it back to me. And so that we go, okay, we've got to dumb down the tapware. I'll get a similar style, cheaper brand.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That's where we're collaborating. And for me, that's when we're a team where you've got the time, you go, okay, well, that's where we're at, and bring it back to the designer so that then when we're doing rough-in, I'm sitting here talking about a certain thing and you go, oh, we actually changed those taps. Oh, did we? I don't like that.
No, you like to be involved.
I like to be involved just because then I'm across it and because otherwise I can't answer questions with certainty.
Yeah. A couple of examples. Let's talk good and bad. We'll go bad first.
Uh-huh.
So give us an example of a project. It doesn't have to be this year, last year, could be 10 years ago, of that of a build that didn't go well and why. Was there an issue with that sort of stuff? I'm sure I could give you some examples.
Yeah, I guarantee you can.
Have you got any examples of something that didn't go so well, that of, that could have improved the scenario? So when a client might be watching this or watching another video, sit there and going, oh, it pushes them over to go, I'm going to spend that little bit on interior design. Have you got any scenarios there?
Yeah, I'll try to reflect and answer that. There's a couple of instances that always derail a project for me. One is, and it's really common, especially, I think everywhere, but on the Goldie, it's, we're saturated with trades and designers, where the client will say, well, we're going to use these builders, but I want to use my best friend, the plumber.
Red flag already for me.
It's a massive red flag because and the clients don't get it, but I call them the well-meaning friend because I find the well-meaning friend ends up, I don't know why, but they end up being the worst tradie on site. And I think it's partly because they've got a vested interest, a conflict of interest maybe. Communication stops. They override design decisions because they go, oh, no, I can get this product cheaper for you. And the designer and the builder are not involved in that. That well-meaning tradie normally derails critical timeline for a builder.
I've got an example for you, right?
Yeah.
Last week, get a phone call from an old client. He came to us, we built for him, finished about a year ago, roughly, and he made us use his cabinet maker. I have to use my cabinet maker. Well, there's a defect now. The cabinet maker will not answer his calls, won't talk to him. And now the clients come back and go, all right, he won't answer the calls, you need to sort him out. And they're going, this is your friend. And he won't even answer your calls. And then it's sort of in the middle. It's like, but I know, how do I use my cabinet maker that I've had relationships with for 15, 20 years?
Who jumps when you call
who would never leave us in that position. We wouldn't be here talking about it. And in my eyes, when someone comes at me like that now and says, I want to use this person, it's a bit of a red flag because 9 times out of 10, like you're saying, they become the issue.
Yeah. They do.
And you got builders there's a reason that they build so well. The Gold Coast has some really good builders, and there's guys that, from 20 years, I know, some of the old school builders still use some of the same trades that they've been using from day one. You know? And they will not budge. And they sit there and go, if my plaster is 20 grand more or whatever, well, that's the cost that it is for me to build that home because I know he's going to deliver the product
to my standard
and give you, the homeowner, what you want and what you're expected to be delivered. So it comes at a price, I drill our estimating team, as well, because I'm the last person to go for the cheapest price. Generally, if it's the cheapest, they're the cheapest for a reason.
Yeah.
So, if we're trying new trades, we have a process in place now that we have to physically go out and see their work. One, check their references. We just can't take anyone on because every time we do, you might give them a small job. It's just not worth the headache because they generally can't deliver what they say they're going to do. So, fully understand that. And perfect example of it this week, for us, that, when that person won't answer, then you have to then go back to external sources like the QBCC or whoever to get them to fix their work. And it's the client's friend, so that's...
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. And I find that derails a project. Poor communication does. I find, not all, but some of the old school tradies, subbies more so than builders, sort of resent a designer being involved. They can do these pretty things, but they got no idea how to make it. And you think, well, there's an element of that without question.
Some just see as you're going to create a headache.
You're just going to create a problem.
Yeah.
And so, but ironically, when they have that attitude, I find that I'm experiencing it currently. We designed a full renovation. I don't really do a lot of renos, but we did kitchens a lot. And they found the cabinet maker was referred, and he was just straight out the cheapest. And got told he was the best of the best. He's 8 months late, and I think I'm on my 5th FaceTime call with the client and the cabinet maker, asking a question and pointing at something and going, "Have you actually looked at my drawings?" And they're going, and then he's offside. I went, "That's the first time I've seen them," and they're sitting out. He's just straight out being willful. And you think, that's lazy. Not helping the client.
Just being lazy.
Being lazy, and of course making assumptions, and now he goes, this job, I'm losing money. Go, well, you didn't read the plans.
If you can't read the plans on yours, you're not reading the plans elsewhere, and the mistakes are just compiling.
I drew that 9 months ago, and I haven't...
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, just compiles. Hey, what about a positive? Give us an example of one that did go well.
Collaborative job sites every time.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. When I normally find the ones that are collaborative, everyone can sniff that it's award-winning. There's one that's coming up that you're tendering at the moment that I've just finished all the drawings on, that thing's going to win an award. That's a cracker
Boomerang?
of a house. Yeah, Boomerang. That's a cracker of a house, as long as they don't tighten the budget up too much. And when everyone knows, I find when I go to site, even the apprentice doesn't have a clue who I am, is engaging. They're excited about it. There's a buzz, and then every decision, Heath will text and go, "I'm thinking of this or this, or what have you got for that?" And everyone's involved. We're all, and the clients are engaging, and the client, as you know, is a really good communicator, and everyone just buzzes. And I find we just finished a project in Tully Creek for Trevor Robbins and construction, and that thing just. Finished a month early. He was on budget, and it's divine home. Every little attention deal, but he would just send a message, talking with the garage door guy. How are we going to build the thing you wanted? Let's chat. It's just all open communication. Everyone's excited by it, and it just came out of the ground so effortlessly. Probably not for Trevor, but for me watching on, it was a piece of cake.
Good. Trevor sounds like a good builder. That's why.
Yeah, he's an old school builder. He's got the skills, and so
like he's a good communicator and
very good. And because he owns his own company and he was on the tools. Yeah, in his instance, everything was considered. Grout colours for this. I need a decision. No worries. And those things, everyone was just involved. And I find that those houses just always run smooth, and everyone is happy at the end of the day. Everyone really reflects really positively back on it.
Yeah.
Every day of the week, that's the best jobs. It's not about budget. Normally they're great client, good communicator, and everyone's excited.
So that's sort of ringing a little bit of bells in my mind, going why we do what we do now. About 2-3 years ago, we had a bit of a rebrand. Because we were probably the biggest renovation builder on the Gold Coast, right? We were pumping out 50 to 100 extensions up or out a year, which you look at that kind of work, most builders don't want to touch it because it's too hard. But we were just doing so many, and I got to the point where I'm just not enjoying this anymore. It's not enjoyable because a lot of these are sort of budget. You're just trying to get a couple extra rooms, a bathroom, a TV room, whatever for the family. They've grown. So it got to that point that that's what we changed into going. All right, well, let's do more high end. Be fulfilled. Because if you're fulfilled and you're enjoying what you do, you're going to deliver a better product.
Yeah, 100%.
And our whole team is brought into it now. So we sit there and we have staff meetings, and it's all we talk about. And I drill them. I'm sitting going, we had one last week, and I'm going, if you would not accept it in your house, well, don't fucking do it for our client's house. Like I'm saying, at the end of the day, if there was an issue and it cost 10, 20 grand to fix, we're going to spend that because that is what we're saying we're going to deliver, and that's what we need to deliver now going forward. So, like the jobs that we're doing at the moment, the high-end stuff, all our guys are really excited, and that's what I talk about. And we're already, being presumptuous, but we're sitting there going, we're going to win an award. We're going to win an award on this job. And that's the vibe going around. The boys it's in their mind. So everything they're doing now is like, no, that's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be good enough because these little things are going to get picked. So
little things make the difference.
The detail.
Yeah, every time. So I think one of the villas that we're working on together will also be up there. There's some really beautiful properties at the moment, and I agree with you. It's the little detail. I'm a bit the same with my team. We never really enter ourselves in awards, but we've been a part of a lot of award-winning projects. We've just played our little role, and which is enough for me. I just want the work, and the reputation. But I find when something goes wrong or it's not quite right, it's when you talk about the $20,000 fix-ups, we sort of deal with the issue, and then we sit down and we brainstorm, okay, how could that have been prevented? What truly caused it? Not what was said over the phone, what really was at the cause of that, and how do we mitigate that? And it's always communication or documentation. It's always something, and if you think, all right, how do we fix that? Because I don't want that to happen again. And I normally find, especially with builders, like you say, you build your team, and a builder won't deviate unless you really let them down. And once you're out, you're sort of out. And so I find with a builder, it's not if you stumble, it's how you rectify that and how you move forward. Because then they go, hey, the guys are proactive. Yeah. Stuff happens to all of us.
It does. And it's how you deal with it.
How you deal with it. You didn't finger point, you just got on, sorted it out.
And there's an issue on every job.
Every time. You can't avoid
You look at this plan, you go, I got to turn it out of this big house. There's a million issues that come up day to day. The problem solving that I do during the week, half the people wouldn't even believe,
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just a normal part of life now, but it's now trying to make sure that other people learn that sort of information from people like me and the Trevors of the world, so we can keep delivering these quality buildings to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, and you're right, for years, 20-odd years, people used to talk about, Gold Coast builders are dodgy. I'm thinking that reputation died in the 80s. There's some really talented builders
here. Really good builders.
Really good. And all the apprentices are now starting up their own businesses. They're all really good. I don't rub shoulders with anyone that I think, that's a bit rough and rough and ready. I normally find they're pretty polished. Their job sites are clean, and there's the standards that have now been set.
Yeah.
So that stigma that really it's only people my age that sort of still say that about Gold Coast. I think most people realise that they're some really good builders here.
If you find your builder on Airtasker or 5 Pages or something like that, then you're probably looking. They could be starting out. So. There was a time in my life, maybe 2010 or something, we were on High Pages doing bathroom renovations and stuff like that. So you've got to start somewhere, but it does leave an error for are they a good builder or not. So but then obviously it comes to budget and that sort of thing. So
it does, it does. And that gets hard, isn't it? When that's a low budget, you still have to build it to the highest standard. But and so then it's sometimes your workmanship it can't be seen. And that gets tricky. I find I'm lucky because I've been on so many sites as I can tell. I sort of walk and go, this guy's good. Cornices aren't cracking and it's a 5-year-old home. So, you think, okay. Or coming from window treatments, I used to judge my judginess. I'd measure a window, and if it was within 1 or 2 millimeters diamond shape, I go, that's a bit rough and ready. Or I've had other builders down at Cabarita, for example, they're millimeter perfect every time. And you think it's just attention to detail. Yeah. And I used to say to them, what's the story? He goes, the cheap guys, they cut their plaster and they thump it in and it pulls the window back. They're on a timeline. They don't have time to cut that perfectly. I'm thinking, oh my Lord.
Or they're paying, if you're a project builder, they're just paying.
Project builder, yep. Crews.
Fixed price, lowest rates.
Smack
just
them
get
in.
it done, smack it and get it done. That's why they're so cheap.
Yeah, there's I don't enjoy those jobs. I have to admit, I don't enjoy those.
Yeah, well, I don't dabble in that market, so I sort of, stay away from that. But
too much headache.
Mate, really appreciate you coming today. Thanks for all the good advice. Look forward to, getting this out to everyone and just letting people understand more about interior design. And we have some exciting projects that we're working together, so can't wait to show everyone. And let's make it a good year, and really appreciate you coming today.
It's going to be a busy year, I can tell you that.
That's it. Thanks, mate.
Excellent. Thank you.